All right, welcome to episode 48 of MVP. Today's guest is Jeff Yeckle. He's the lead guitarist for the band Six Gun Sally, based here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All right, Alex, how did you meet Jeff?
So I met Jeff through Facebook, actually. I reached out to him. He had a couple postings about doing guitar lessons, and I had the chance to check out his music catalog as well as the band Six Gun Sally, and reached out, and he was nice enough to come onto the podcast, talk about his musical background, his journey, how he joined the band, songs that they've created, and we had the opportunity to watch him shred on the guitar. Tune into this one, guys.
It's a great episode.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Going out and just performing
in
just
front of
doing
people.
Because I say to Julia that because I'll just sit up there and play and just like sing some songs that I like.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if you're then
It's
you're
not bad.
well then you're more than halfway there, man. You just gotta
Do it in front of some
You
people.
gotta dial it in. Get over that initial. Some people are real, obviously nervous to do it, right? And so you gotta respect anyone that initially does it. But when then a lot of people you'll get a rush doing it, right? And then it'll be something you want to do more and more. So
I have a funny story about. I did perform in front of people before. It was in Nashville. We went on our Nashville trip.
karaoke.
So believe it or not, Jeff,
Or
it
you
was
jump
like
up on
crazy.
stage with the
It
band.
was on stage with a band, like, and the guys were like super cool because it was early in the night, so like clearly they weren't ringing it in for like everybody that was coming in. And
Yeah.
I said, my buddy like keeps messing with me, telling me to play Country Roads, and he was. And I'm like, just simple chords. I'm like, I think I can make it. I got some liquid courage in me, and shoved me up on stage
It's
and
probably
did
the
it.
number one sing-along song in the world,
Yeah,
I'm a big John Denver geek, actually.
criminally underrated.
Oh, he was fantastic guitar player, songwriter. I kind of grew up on him. My dad had the 8-tracks, and he had a bunch of John Denver that I adored and still do to this day. To be honest with you, I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, he had a lot of great songs, like you said, guitar wise. Some of it was simple, but then he had some like really good like finger picking songs too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of his songs for finger picking students when they want to learn finger picking. And Country Roads is one of them. That because everyone knows it, of course, and it's not exceedingly difficult to play. So it's a good one to get to get this thing moving a little bit.
I never tried to do it finger picking style though.
Yeah.
Is it like the Travis picking? Is that the kind of pattern?
Travis picking is more like when your thumb is kind of moving independently of these fingers. You're kind of keeping like a bass line going, plus stuff up here. It's a little more involved. Even.
Okay.
I can demonstrate maybe later.
Yeah, that sounds good. No, that sounds good.
It'd be easier if I had a guitar in my hand.
Right. At any point, feel free to grab the Mitchell guitar to the right, setting for some ambiance in the back.
Yeah, if we're gonna do
Some
that,
ambiance.
that's cool.
That's my go-to.
Circling back to performing in front of people, do you remember like the very first time you did that?
Oh yeah,
And how long ago
clearly.
was that?
It was with my first rock band we had. We were in 8th grade. It was in 7th or 8th grade, and back then, being in a band, playing guitar, doing that it seems like it was a lot more popular, a lot more of a thing to do than it is nowadays. So there were always. It was easy to find people. Drummers, bass players, singers. There was there was a lot of people that were doing it. But is that my first time? If you're talking about that, was I was literally, I think in 7th grade, and we were playing at our singer's sister's graduation party. She was graduating from high school, and we were set up in the garage, and the garage door opened. And then we kicked into Detroit Rock City, you know what I'm saying, and rocked the driveway. We rocked the.
That's awesome.
Did you have the fog machines going out?
We didn't
too?
have fog machines,
No.
but we had those little things that like the light would go to the music. They were like from Sears.
yeah.
We had a couple of those set up by the drums.
Nice.
That was our light show.
Nice.
And, then,
awesome.
and I think we played 4 songs or something, but we thought that was it.
But that was the start, though, like you're saying.
That was it. I did it once, and I was like, "This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
This is what I'm going to do.
that's
for
awesome.
the rest of my life."
Who made you pick up the guitar? If you could think of like one person back whenever you started?
No, well,
Like
I didn't have. I was so young
like
when
influence. Yeah,
Yeah, I was.
influence or
I
no?
didn't have any influences. My
Yeah.
father bought me a guitar when I was 7,
Uh-huh.
and thank God that he did, because he passed away a few years later when I was 9. So thank God he got me that guitar because. And I wasn't even asking for it. He was just like, "Well, I'm gonna get him a guitar and see, just to see if he likes it, right?" So,
Yeah.
and sure enough, there used to be a music store at South Hills Village in the mall there, and he would take me, and we'd walk through the mall with my guitar case, and I would go take lessons, and I just took to it immediately and loved it. It just came really natural to me, and the teacher was like, "Yeah, this kid has it," and it was just what I did. It became the thing, But then my dad got sick,
Uh-huh.
and then ended up passing away. And then during all that time, I fell out of it. I was getting shuffled around from, different family members and stuff. And so the guitar fell away. Fast forward to like when I was 12, a neighborhood kid got an electric guitar, and I thought it was pretty cool, right? And at first, he couldn't play at all, and I could still remember some stuff. So I was playing, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of cool." And then he got better than me, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So I said, "Mom, I want an electric guitar. I need one." So she got me one, and went back to lessons. When I was like 12, 13, and that was it. Then that was all I did.
Nice.
I played sports when I was younger, but I was never that, great. I wasn't the worst in the, on the team, but I was not the best. I knew it too. I was, I'm like, I know that, there's all these kids that are so much better than me, really. But that was okay because I could play guitar,
Right.
And that was what I was going to do.
I wish I appreciated it more like as a kid growing up, because it was like
Right.
sports is like everything, but then you realize that you're probably not going to go to the NBA, NFL, or anything like that. So focus in on some things that you're good at and like to do,
I can remember, clear as day, it was when I was going into 6th grade, going to Neil Armstrong right down the road here, right? 5 minutes from here, right? And coming from back then anyway, the way it worked is, you went to elementary school until you were like in 5th grade or whatever, and then you went to 6th grade. But all these other schools, all kids from all these other schools were now,
Right.
all in the 6th grade, and you didn't know anyone, kind of thing. And I remember being in gym class, being like, "Okay, these kids are faster, stronger."
I'm out of my league.
Yeah, I was like, I thought I was okay when I was in, at Memorial Elementary School, but this is, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play guitar.
Nice.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Nice. Now,
And I
did
was
you-
totally fine with that.
Yeah. Did you play through school? Like, was there a program through like anything at Bethel, or was it all just on
was
your
lessons.
own?
It took
Yeah.
lessons. No, I took lessons. I took lessons. I went to there was a music store called Lawrence Music. It was there.
Okay.
It's been there. Well, it's not there anymore, but it was there for years and years in Castle Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just went once a week and had a great teacher, and it was just all I did. It was all I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just poured all my effort into it.
Yeah. How vital do you think it is for somebody to get lessons versus self-teaching themselves?
Well, it can't hurt. Lessons certainly can't hurt. There are people that can do very well without taking lessons. If you're just really musically gifted and you put the time in, you can get really good without lessons. I know people that have done it, but for me, it was a combination of both. My teacher never had to ask me to practice. You know what I mean?
You wanted to.
I would show up ready to roll. Every week.
Yeah.
But you can do it without.
Yeah.
You can. It can be done.
Yeah. You hear like some people too now. I like Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah.
He was saying in the one interview he doesn't hardly even knows how to read music or anything like that, and like the biggest guitarists of all time, some don't.
You don't need to. You don't have to know how to read music. To become a great musician or guitar player. The only time you really have to know how to read music is if you're going to be in like a symphony, or if you're like a jazz band, and if you want to play guitar in your high school, jazz band, you're going to have sheet music in front of you.
Yeah.
But that's what I tell all my students too when they first start, or I'll go to the parent and say, I know how to read music a little bit. I used to when I was younger, I could really read pretty well, but it just kind of loses if you don't keep up on it. But I can still read a little bit.
Yeah.
But I go to the parent, that's what I say. I say, look, there's two different ways to learn here. I can show your son or daughter everything they need to know to, all the chords, all the scales, all the techniques, everything to be able to do it without reading music. The only thing you won't be able to open a book of music. And but 99% of the time when you go to someone's house to jam or something, you're not sitting at a music stand opening a book of music and sitting there. That's just
right.
That's just not what happens.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary.
Right. Agreed.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It makes your brain work in a good way, and it's
right.
So that's great, right? But
I can't.
I feel like there's so many resources available now to like learn an instrument versus before with YouTube.
Oh my
and
God,
the internet
YouTube
and all that stuff. Like,
if I had YouTube back then,
yeah,
my God,
Yeah.
it's
could you
today's.
imagine?
It would have been so easy, but I'm glad that. Well, in a way, I'm glad I didn't have it because it made me use my ears. One thing I got early on, I knew that I could listen to something and then find it on the guitar. I could hear it and I could find it on the guitar. And I knew I could do that really early on. And I knew that most of my friends couldn't do that, didn't have that ability.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to really work on that. So I would, come home from school and go in my bedroom, close the door, and put on whatever. It would be not really record, a little bit past records, cassette tapes, if you remember those, right?
Yeah.
So would put in my cassette tape in, and whatever it was, Boston or Journey or. And I wanted to learn this song. I would hit it. I would, play, stop, rewind, play, stop, rewind, play, stop, rewind. I've got real good at working the buttons and sitting there with my guitar and just getting it and learning it. I would spend hours. I would learn complete albums from start to finish.
Wow.
Solos, everything. You know what I mean? And
All from just hearing the song.
Yeah. And so you do that. It's like anything. It's like like a weightlifter. You do a curl enough, your biceps going to get big, right? So I did it enough so my ears got really good. And that's part of the reason why I can teach guitar too, because every week I have students every day come to my house they say, hey, I want to learn this song, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, and I'm like, okay, let's look it up. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, that's what's going on. I learn it, and then we show it to them.
Do you think that's the best way to teach people is just based off of the songs that they want to play?
Yes.
Yeah, because you're invested. My neighbor that I grew up living next to, it was like he went and got lessons. He's a really good guitar player. But he was like, I just remember playing songs that I just didn't want to play because they wanted me to do it.
It's one of during the very first lesson I have with any student, I said, okay, so next week I want you to show up with a list of songs that you want to learn, and that really, don't worry if you think it's too hard, it sounds too like you won't be able to do it. Write me a list of 5 to 10 songs that you think would be really cool if you knew how to play, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we'll find something to start with, right? So as you're learning chords and as you're learning how to strum and as you're learning how to move your finger, from place to place, you're working on something that you like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like an exercise out of a book.
Right.
Or something that I've suggested. I really make, I always make the student pick the stuff so I know that they, are into it,
Yeah. You get invested.
I feel like that's one of those things with music where it's like you'll have the people that are kind of the kids, especially that are like forced kind of to go to music lessons. It's like the parents are trying to get them into it versus you have those kids that are like really interested on their own. And maybe there's a crossover between the two where the kids get forced then switch over. But on my end, it's like I'm more interested in it now versus whenever I was in like elementary school. We had like a 6th grade, I think. We had to do like an acoustic guitar lesson, and we just wanted nothing to do with it then.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, damn, I wish I would have paid more attention.
I know.
Like,
I
it's
think
weird how that works.
It is, and I think I've seen all the scenarios over the years. I know if the kid doesn't want to be there or not.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are times where at first they might be kind of not too into it, but then once they get a little success doing something, then all of a sudden, right? So it's
Right.
like, so you can't blame parents for kind of being like, look, get in the car, we're going to try this,
Yeah.
and you're going to try this for a while, and I'm
For
going to make
sure.
you try this for a while because it could turn out to be a great thing, right? You know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've gone to parents after 2-3 months and been like, look, this ain't, it's just maybe not right now, maybe in a couple years, you would give it another shot or something,
Right.
Yeah. That's the key is once you get your first couple of like successful chord changes on a guitar, I think that's like the moment. You're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is the best.
It really is because it is. It's like, yeah, it's taking the training wheels off to the first time you're riding without training wheels,
Yep.
Yeah. It's like
It
golf
is.
almost, like you suck at first.
Do you like
and it's
golf
just
at all,
like-
Jeff?
I don't. My wife, it does. She used
Yeah.
to be the
Oh,
golf coach.
nice.
She used to be the golf coach up at the high school for
Very
the
cool.
girls,
Oh, very cool.
and she's been all around the world playing golf. So she,
Get out,
it's,
man.
That's awesome.
and she's never taken me to play golf.
You're
That's
busy
funny.
rocking out, man.
Yeah, it's not that it's. I've never played golf.
Yeah.
I've swung golf clubs poorly, incorrectly, but
Yeah.
Right. It's just one of those things though where there's such a learning curve at first that if you don't have the patience and like the hard work ethic to be able to get through it, to get to that first like couple good shots,
yeah,
then you're like, oh, then you're hooked.
yeah, right.
It's much like that probably with guitar.
I
where
think
it's like,
I think it would be, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
you
I
have
mean,
to get through that tough period at first, and then
And when it happens, when I see a student have it, there's nothing more rewarding, to see someone finally get it,
I
And
bet.
I can look at just the way their arm is moving, and know whether they have it or not. I mean, does
Yeah.
it look like it's robotic, or is it just doing this nice swing back and forth, and you just know that they have it. You know what I mean? And when they get it, I go crazy. I praise them, so much because I
You're like,
want
"That's it,
I
that's
do,
it."
and I want it to be a big moment for them, so they,
That's awesome.
so hopefully they get,
What got you started into teaching and doing like lessons and everything? Where was the moment?
It
Or
was
is it
so
always
weird, I didn't. When I was in high school, friends would come over and be like, teach me something. You got to show me something. You got to show me. So like,
Yeah.
I was always like giving lessons in a way. Well, wasn't getting paid back then to do it, but I would teach friends here and there, right?
Mhm.
But as far as like, okay, this is going to be my part of how I make my money. It came a little later in life for me. A friend of mine had opened a music store and had called me and said, I need you to come here and help. He's like, you can do whatever you want. You can, if you want to be a salesman, you can be the manager. You want to be a teacher, you just do whatever you want. He kind of, which was great. And,
Yeah.
opened the door for me. And then, so I remember the store opened like it was December. It was like December 1st, right? So perfect time. All these parents coming in to buy guitars for Christmas for their kids. And I'm like, well, let me, I'm going to be a salesman first here, and because I know
There you
all
go.
about guitars. So parent would come in, I would sell them a guitar and be like, hey, I teach, by the way, too. Right?
Boom,
What I mean?
boom.
So by the end of the month, by January 1st, I was right. When I started teaching, I had a full schedule, right from the get go.
Nice.
And I love doing it. I love doing it. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting there, I got a guitar in my hand,
That's awesome.
When I go to work, I put a guitar in my car and I go to work and I get on a tour bus and I go out of town and I play
So cool.
in theaters opening for rock and roll Hall of Famers, and
It's so awesome.
amazing.
so
It's
I
incredible.
have a nice ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get to pay it forward too, I think, in a sense, whenever you're teaching a younger generation how to play.
I
and
think it's important.
passing it on.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why it's so important for me when, again, any of my students show any kind of want to get on stage.
You're right.
I do everything in my power to make that possible for them.
Yeah. You hit on going on tour again. That is coming up. This
Yeah, I mean, we get a tour. It's not
Little
like
bit.
in the olden days where bands would go and you'd be on the road for 3 months. That doesn't happen.
Right.
But we go for like weekends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we go for like a couple weekends out of the month or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'll leave this coming Friday. We leave in the morning, and we're playing in Cincinnati. And we play Friday and Saturday night in Cincinnati at a place called the Ludlow Garage, which is a kind of a real famous venue.
Mhm.
The Allman Brothers recorded a live album there back in the day, and just tons of big bands have been through there. We played there last year, and it was excellent. And so this year we're opening for the Outlaws, which is another Southern rock band. The one night, and then Friday night, and then Saturday night there's a band called Black Hawk, which was like a '90s country band. They were big in the '90s, and then we're opening for them.
Awesome.
And then we'll come back, and then in another couple weeks, I think we go to New Hampshire.
Now that's
so it's like that.
That's the one that's opening up for the last living member of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Correct?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We play with him a lot. We open for him a lot. We do a lot of shows with him. We're friends with him now. It's very bizarre.
That's like got to be so cool. Like you grow up listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Lynyrd Skynyrd was I loved Lynyrd Skynyrd. I did. I loved all kind of music. I loved Metallica. I loved Lynyrd Skynyrd. I loved John Denver. I loved all music. But some very surreal moments with Artemis.
Right.
He was in that he survived the plane crash that killed a lot of that band, in the 70s, and he lived to tell, the story, and he's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and the Lynyrd Skynyrd's probably the biggest band arguably in that genre of music, ever.
Oh yeah.
And he loves us, and it's amazing. He comes out and he watches our sound checks, and he stands right in front of me while we're doing a sound check. And when we are on stage, he'll come out, and the crowd will go crazy, and he'll get on stage, and he'll play a percussion while we're playing, and he's just a real neat guy. He's a living legend. So
right.
it's amazing. It's one of my career highlights probably was every year here in the Pittsburgh area in Monongahela, they have a concert series, a summer concert series.
Yeah.
And for the past couple of years, his band has played there, and of course we've opened for them.
Yeah.
But the last year he came up during our set, and we played like 4 Lynyrd Skynyrd songs, with him playing drums, Like, so I'm playing Sweet Home Alabama. Tuesday's Gone, which is my favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd song. It's my favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd song. And I'm playing, I look back and I'm playing it with the guy who recorded the song,
Way back when, and you're like, is there ever a moment when you're like, don't mess this chord up, or don't mess it
completely.
Don't flub this note. Yeah.
Your senses are on overdrive, when you're hypersensitive when that,
Right. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Do you notice a difference between him playing and somebody covering if he's on drums versus somebody else?
Yeah, it feels different.
Yeah.
Yes, it feels. Yeah, the feel is just different. It's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just feels right.
Yeah.
He's just playing he still plays amazingly. He's like 76 or something.
Right.
77. Something. I think just he might have even turned 78. I know he's right around there. But he still plays really well. But his band's super. There's a bunch of nice people.
Yeah.
They've been so nice to us, and we have a lot of shows coming up with them. So it's great.
That's surreal.
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit more about the current band, Six Gun Sally. Just the history, how you got involved, and how some of the other members got involved.
Yeah, sure. The band itself has been around for quite some time, I think. I think they did start at, I want to say 1989, I think, is maybe like when the band first got together. So we're going back, right? I wasn't in the band back then. I joined the band probably about 6 years ago. And a drummer friend of mine recommended me. He knew the drummer in Six Gun Sally, and the drummer in Six Gun Sally is kind of like the boss. He's the leader of the band, and so my drummer friend that I was playing with said, hey, you need to, you should call Jeff, and so he did. And he called and said, we got this band, and this is what's going on, and this is what you'll get paid, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'll come over and check it out, So I did, and I was like, okay, this, we'll give this a shot for a while. And then after 2 or 3, 4 months, he said, look, I want to get the bass player was going to be leaving. He's like, so we need a new bass player, and I want to add a girl singer. He's like, do you know anyone? Can you help me out? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So I knew, as soon as he said it, I knew the people that I could probably call to bring in. And so I did. They came, and then it really kind of became, the band. And then we played for, and then it just so the whole time since I've joined and since, that kind of lineup came together, it's just been this. It's been slow, but it's been this. It's been this up. It keeps getting better and better and better. We keep doing bigger and bigger things. And
that's the best feeling, though, too. Like a steady growth. And I'm sure at the beginning, is it tough trying to play with different and new people? Like,
no. Not for me. Not for me.
It's like you catch the vibe. You're like,
catch the vibe.
You're the ears. You hear it.
Well, yeah. Once you're in a room with someone for a couple times, you know what's kind of going on. You're listening. You're communicating through your instruments and stuff together, and you're listening to one another, and so it comes together pretty quick if it's going to work, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it did, and it felt good. And then so that lineup, stayed together. It was together for a while, and then like all bands, personality things, conflicts arise, things happen, and so there was some, shuffling here and there of members. Mm-hmm. So we went through a couple. There was a couple different singers, and we now have our current singer who is awesome, and we love her, and. She is our Sally, you know what I mean? We have our logo of our band is this girl wearing a cowboy hat, pointing a gun at you kind of thing,
which
right?
Is
so
awesome.
So the logo, I really like it, right? But I always envisioned for the band the girl to like take on the role, you know what I mean? Like kind of role play, become Sally when you get up there, you know what I mean? We have this cool... Iron Maiden had Eddie, he was like that, that mascot kind of thing. Well, we have Sally, right? So...
Right.
Her name's Amy Jane, when she joined, and she's been in the band for coming up on a year now already. But when she joined, she really took it on, I just kind of lightly suggested it to her. I'd be like, hey, this is really cool if you kind of dress this way. And, and she did, and so I'm very happy about it.
Yeah.
And, so the band's just been doing this, and, culminating last year, we probably did our biggest thing with where we opened for Lynyrd Skynyrd. Now Artemis is not the drummer in Lynyrd Skynyrd,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right. He's got his own.
He has his own band, and they do all Lynyrd Skynyrd material, you know what I mean? But he can do it because was an original member,
Yeah.
But we opened for the current Lynyrd Skynyrd 3 different times, in arena kind of settings, you know what I mean, where there were 15,000 people and. It was, so for me, it was like, again, just another kind of moment in time or surreal moment where it was like, okay, Jeff, you did this all your life, and now you've finally been able to get to the big stage,
Exactly. How do you get in the zone before going out in front of 15,000 people?
I thought I'd be really freaked out by it, but I wasn't. I was like, bring it on. I was really ready for it. We when we got there and. It's you on stage doing your sound check, and you're in your empty arena, and I'm like, holy crap, But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be ready for this, But then you're backstage and you're getting dressed, and then it's like, okay, the guy comes and says, come on, you got to get to the stage, and you walk to the stage, and the lights go down, and you're like, okay, man, it's the, for someone like me, it's what I've been wanting to do,
your whole life
to have that moment,
right?
When I was young, I went all. How many concerts did I go to see when I was young? And just to be in that atmosphere when those house lights go down and the crowd goes crazy, and then the lights come on and boom, and there you are, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it was never for me, not from like I wanted to be a star, like look at me kind of thing. It really wasn't that. It was just that I guess just the affirmation of the hard work and being able to just to be on that stage, doing what you've put so much time into to, and hopefully transmit that to an audience, so I'm just really still lucky and blown away that we get to go out of town and playing beautiful theaters and stay in nice hotels. And again, I'm not in a van anymore, although I've done the van thing too, where there was 5 stinky guys and sleeping on, guitar cases in the back of a van and, going from town to town and making not a whole lot of money, I've done that too, but now it's a little bit nicer, it's a little.
You earned it. You got to go through
pay
that,
the dues,
I, feel like,
I guess,
right?
but like I never even though it was paying dues, I suppose I never even really felt it.
Yeah.
I never felt I was playing dudes. I just felt like I was having fun with my buddies.
Right.
Like I was in high school. You know, it's like constantly in high school mentality, right? With your boys, man. You know,
Yeah.
And girl.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amy.
Probably some of the best stories come from those early years, you know, when you're first getting started. And like you said, it's just you're hanging out.
Any
you know?
musician who's, you know, been doing it as long as I am, sure, could write books, you know, that would be
I'm sure.
that are
Those are
chock full.
Those are the best books too. I actually read some of the Dirt,
Yeah.
which Motley Crue,
Right.
like insane, right? Like all the stories are just.
I was
beyond
never that, you know,
bonkers.
I was never that decadent and, you know,
and all that stuff.
debaucherous. I was a
Yeah.
little more straight-laced.
Right.
Even in my wildest times, I was never on that level.
Yeah, I felt like they got branded as that band, and they just had to keep going up, like
Yeah,
as
right.
that band, right? Just keep doing more insane things. And
Well, it's
Yeah.
rock and roll. It's a side
Right.
of rock and roll, I suppose, but I never really prescribed to it.
yeah,
How often are you guys playing shows, would you say, like per year now?
Per year, I don't know if I had to guess, 30 to 40 shows, maybe a year. But when we're hoping to up that a bit, you know, I mean, there's a couple guys in the band that are older, you know, and me and there's a couple guys, you know, we have families, you know what I mean? I have a young daughter, you know, I have a 9-year-old daughter. And so the way it's going now is kind of perfect, to be honest with you. It would be not. I would like to up it just a little bit, you know, even if we could add a couple more shows on a month, that would be just perfect for me, you know. That way I could still be home and not every weekend be going away and be like, well, you know, and when my daughter's doing all the stuff, I'm not there, you know. So far, so good. You know, we have a couple different booking agents that help us and get these gigs for us, you know, these shows. And it's like this, once you go into a place and you do well, you know what I mean, and the crowd likes you and stuff, then it's like you just kind of get in there to their rotation, you know what I
they
mean?
want you back.
Yeah, and then they end up calling you, you know, hey, we want you next year, you know, and then you do that enough times and then, you know, it just builds and builds and builds.
Just adds up.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite place to play around Pittsburgh? Some of the good venues. I mean, there's a
You know,
lot, but
we do a lot of outdoor things like in the summertime, you know, a lot of like bike events, you know, like biker things.
yeah,
The rib thing, you know, the rib cook-off type of events, you know what I mean? And they're always fun, you know. Probably my favorite is the Aquatorium. It's a place called the Monongahela Aquatorium, which is that thing down on the river, you know, where they have these shows.
Yep, been to a couple. They're awesome.
Oh yeah,
absolutely
it's cool,
phenomenal.
You know?
Yeah,
And it's great for them to do that for that town, you know.
100%.
And it's rain or shine, you know. So normally, if you're lucky and the weather's nice, you know, you get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people, you know, that go to this thing.
It's really big down there, and the
Yeah.
setup. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but
I've
it's
not,
south of us a little bit, and the setup is really really cool. So like they have these, it's like concrete blocks. Like I don't know how to like really explain it, but essentially it's like going all the way down.
It's like stadium, like
Stadium.
bleachers, kind
Yeah.
of like bleacher seating.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a bleacher setup into like that goes like onto like the river. It's super cool, and like the band performs.
Yeah, there's
right
a big
next to the
stage
river.
there, and then the backdrop is the river, and then kind of the mountain, the trees and mountain behind the thing. So it's a cool vibe, you know.
Yeah.
And we always play there. We're real tied in there. Our drummer, our drummer. A lot of the band is from that area, from
Okay.
the Mon Valley. You know,
Okay.
They live in Charleroi and you know that type of area. And he helps out our drummer, Dave Barb. Hi, Dave. When you see this,
Shout out to
I
Dave.
See them saying hello to you. He really helps out with that place, and you know,
Nice.
donates and makes sure that goes on for the town there. You know, so so that is good for our band because we can, you know, and
Yeah.
we can kind of slide in there with all the.
They're gearing up for this year too, right? To do some shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year, I don't know the reason, but they normally have like 10, 12 shows. This season normally goes like almost 3 months, you know, every weekend. But
Right.
this year, and I don't know the answer, I think they're only having 5 or 6 shows.
Really?
Yeah, and it's every other weekend.
Oh.
You know, they would do it like starting June, July, August. You know, they would do it all
Yeah.
3 months, every Friday, or
Right.
Saturday, I'm sorry, every Saturday. But this year, it's just limited to, and I'm not 100% sure, but we are playing the last one with Artemis. Artemis
Nice.
band is very well received there.
Oh yeah.
And they've played there the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's always a real good night. So
Yeah. It's a good turnout. They've opened up a couple other type of like setups. The one in Peters Township, they just did that one too. I don't know if you saw that. It's like they're like amphitheater outside. It's awesome. It looks really, really cool. I've never seen it in person. I've just seen pictures.
I remember playing at an amphitheater in Peters. It was a couple years ago though. So if it's
it probably was that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it probably was that one. It's like someone new, I should say. But.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember doing it.
Do you like it there? Was it pretty?
It was cool.
Good turnout.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It was cool. It was like the amphitheater, and then it was like just the hill. Like they all just went up. Like kind of just like a big hill in front of it where people just bring the blankets and the thing and yeah, it was cool. It was nice.
That is really neat.
What kind of like practice goes into this? Like as a band, like you guys, how often are you
A
guys
lot.
rehearsing, practicing?
I think to be good, to be really really good, you have to practice, especially with in a band situation, right? Everyone has to practice on their own, but getting a show together and the order of the songs and the flow of the show and what are you gonna say, in between songs, all that stuff. It takes work, it takes time. So I'm sure bands practice. There's our bands that practice a lot more than we do. We generally practice one time a week, just once a week, But if we're getting ready to go, out, to do 3 or 4 shows in a row or something, and we're opening for like some bigger bands, we're like, okay, we have to really, put in the time and get it together, because we have to go out, we have to put our best foot forward, right, with these things. And so, then we might practice 2 or 3 times a week, maybe, but that's the most. But the joke is that, you have to go in with a plan, we talk and we like, okay, you come prepared, you can't, no one wants to be the one, you don't want to come in and be like, well, I didn't really get a chance to learn that song. And we're all standing there like, well, we did.
Yeah.
Why didn't you,
Yeah.
So getting everybody on just coming prepared goes a long way. And having a plan, saying, okay, we're going to work on these 3 songs. Or we're going to work on these endings of songs, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. It might be backup vocals you're working on. It might be endings of songs you're working on. It might be whatever it is, but you have to have when you're there, you have to use your time wisely.
Yeah. And you have a lot of pieces in your band too. So like
we do. It's a bigger band,
Yeah.
There are bigger bands, but there are, most of them, we're a bigger band. We have 7 of us. Mm-hmm. 6 guns and a Sally.
Right. Very good.
That's right.
How difficult is it to orchestrate songs together? We were talking about it a little bit earlier, but
as far as what,
just bringing like your own song together, like you guys make your own
own
songs and create your own songs. How does that process look?
Well,
for the band?
Yeah, we have like I said, one of my dearest friends that I grew up with, another excellent guitar player. His name's Ford Thurston, and he was a Bethel guy too, and he lives in Nashville now, and he's lived in Nashville for like the last, 12, 13, 14 years maybe. He's been down there, and he's toured with different people, and right now he's in a guy's name's Chris Cagle. He was a big country artist in the 90s and into the 2000s, and he still tours a lot, and he's in his band right now, so he tours all over the place, and we're going to start doing a bunch of shows with them coming up.
Nice.
But he writes a lot of the material with my drummer. So they get together and kind of, get the songs together.
Okay.
And then Ford will take it into the studio and do a bunch of just get the tracks kind of going. And then he'll send it out to us and he'll say, okay, this is the skeleton,
And then
put
you
some meat
guys
on
add
it.
in. Yeah, right.
Yeah, write your parts, write your solos. You're going to be in the studio next week. I need your parts on these songs, and then we get to work.
Nice.
And then each of us go in. It's not like we go in separately. It's not like we're all in the same room. back in the 60s and 70s, when everyone was in the same room at the same time doing it. When I kind of wish, I would almost like to try it that way once, to get that kind of vibe, but it's not.
Yeah.
We all go in separately.
There was something too like that those days too. You were saying in the 60s and 70s, like the videos of Skynyrd going in, like playing all together, like the Beatles, like just seeing like that footage, just airing things out, talking about it.
It's not like that. I mean, that's when, that takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
and a lot of money,
Oh yeah, I could imagine.
If you're the Beatles, you can do
You're
whatever.
fine. Yeah, you're good.
That record company's like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Take as long as you'd like. But not with us, right?
Yeah.
We got to pay. We can't pay for having us. I don't know. Try this one. That's all kind of worked out at the house beforehand.
You got the plan when you go
when
in.
you go in, it's like we kind of know what we're doing. Let's just get in there and do it.
Right. You want to rip it up, tear it up.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What are you most excited for in these shows coming up this summer?
Almost, just to continue doing it. You know what I mean? Do I like when there's, when the venue's larger and there's more people there or whatever? Yeah, sure. That's nice, right? Just the fact that just doing it, feeling, just hopefully doing it a little more, being able to, again, there's nothing like, getting that text saying, look, Friday morning, you got to be at the bus at 9 a.m., to get on the bus to go do your thing,
Mm-hmm.
Just the experience, the experience of doing it is so wonderful, and to get paid pretty well on top of it.
To play music is awesome.
Is really lucky, So it's just hopefully doing it, just getting the chance. So what am I excited for? Just the opportunity, just knowing that we're constantly striving to do more and to get better, and that's enough,
Yeah. Do all the members in your band do music full time, or is it a little bit of mix of both?
It's a mix.
Okay.
It's a mix of both,
Yeah.
Most of the, I would say more of the guys have, full-time kind of gig. A couple of us. Amy is more of a full-timer like me.
Mm-hmm.
She goes out and does a lot of acoustic stuff by herself. She can sit and play song, and sing and do a whole night. And, And so and a couple of the other guys, it's a similar thing where they have, they got like side gigs that they do, but then they, we get to do this too, And me, and then I'm more full time where I'm teaching. I teach guitar all through, through the week, and then do the gigs. Do this, and I get hired all the time. People call, and I go do fill in stuff, and so yeah. I've been doing this, playing guitar, making a living for the last 23 years of my life.
It's incredible. That's really cool.
And I don't take that for granted one bit. I know how lucky that I am to be able to do it. How many people don't feel fulfilled, or like, they're on this earth and they're going to these 9 to 5s, and because they have to, and you got to pay the bills, right? But to really be able to feel like you're doing something that God gave you an ability to do, and you worked really hard at it, and now you get to do it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, no, it really is, man.
Yeah.
There's something to it, like, because like you're really enjoying what you're doing too, which is
it
fantastic.
Makes it's not all. It's everything about it's great. I mean, financially there are good and bad times. There's lean times.
Yeah.
During the wintertime, things go down. You don't play as much in the wintertime, so you got to watch. You got to watch, right? In the summertime, it's a bonanza, because it's just gigs coming in and people calling you and do this and do this and do this. And so it's like, then you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then so for me, I've doing this for as long as I've been doing it, I know the trends even throughout the year. Even with students, I know that around Christmas time, I'm going to pick up a few students, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I know in the summertime, some kids are going to quit, for the summer, or they're going on vacation, or, so it's a constant ebb and flow of my students going up and down and the gigs going up and down.
Yeah.
And they all, and the two things really do kind of like seem to offset it one another.
The nice part is you got both, man.
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
I just have to be smart, you know, and I just knowing when the lean times are gonna more than likely show up, you know, financially anyway.
Yeah.
I got to plan on that sometimes, but it's
Hey, you're doing something right to be doing it for 23 years.
yeah,
man.
I've been able
Yeah.
to make it work for this long, and with the help of an extremely supportive wife.
Yes. There you go.
Love
man.
you, Jennifer.
Most important.
It's a team. Teamwork makes the dream work, man.
She has more of a 9 to 5 thing. She's a
Yeah.
teacher at the high school.
Oh,
at
awesome.
Bethel, up at Bethel,
Nice.
and so she has a more regimented, not regimented, but a more standard.
You need the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
It's the yin and the yang effect. Yeah.
She, when we started dating, I told her, I said, look, I'm a guitar player and I'm not changing. So just know that.
There you go.
Just know that going in, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
Right.
fantastic.
How would you say that the audience for rock music has like adapted over time, or do you think it stayed relatively the same?
I think it's changed, and I don't know. For me, I don't, everyone's opinion, for me, not for the better necessarily, I think people's attention, there's no record studio, there's no like joy of seeing you pick up a rock magazine or something, a Rolling Stone magazine, and your band, this album's coming out. Oh, it's coming out on this date, and then you go to your local record store to buy the record, and you bring it home and you put it on your thing, and you look. It was an event, it was something that you did and you had to plan for, and it's not like that anymore. It's you go on you can go on your phone and whatever you want to hear, you can download for free, and music's music. Whether I like what's popular out there or not. There's no right or wrong there. I don't think today's music stinks or any of that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of excellent new music out there. Of course there is. It's just the easy the being that it's so accessible and you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Has changed everything.
I think people underappreciate music a little bit more now than they did
like I
back
said,
then.
because it's not as special.
Yeah, there was
Right.
like an aura to like buying just a single CD.
I
or
would
a
come
single
home and buy
record.
it. I mean, I'm old enough, of course, to have I used to go to that record store and buy a record album and come home and put it and stare at the cover and open it up and read every single as I was listening to it and thinking it was the most unbelievable thing in the world, right? And that just doesn't happen anymore,
Yeah, it's a instant gratification era now, and
There's good in that, I suppose, right? Or if
for
it's
some
like,
things, for some things.
oh yeah, if you want to check anything out, you can just do it
there.
immediately. And so I guess that is kind of cool, but I think it's not been good for.
Even in our
majority.
era, like we transitioned from when we were kids, basically CDs, like young kids, and then it became like iTunes, and then it became like what it is now: Spotify, Apple Music,
Yeah.
YouTube. Like everything's just there. You don't really have to pay for it if you have a subscription,
Yeah,
which
right.
is like just wildly different than what it was originally.
Yeah.
So
And it's like hurt like the artists, I think, too, a lot.
yeah,
Or it's changed. It's changed.
Well, it's
changed
the
it, yeah.
dynamics
Well, it's
for the
changed like
artists.
the record company. I don't think there's any really record company business anymore. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can just bypass it completely.
Right.
I mean, Billie Eilish, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
they make
Self-produce and do their own
they
thing.
probably did it in a room like this,
Yeah,
in their
exactly.
bedroom. They make it, and there's ways to do it, get it out there,
Right.
So yeah, I guess there's probably a lot of good stuff with the new modern technology. I don't really think or worry about any of it. I
Yeah.
just play my guitar and try to make the band as good as good as
There you go.
possible.
Yeah,
and have
that's
as
a
much
good way to
fun.
look at it. man.
None
Yeah.
of it. I don't really think too much about any of that.
That's fair. I remember my dad like telling a story too. He was a big Neil Young guy, but he used to listen like they had the plug-in for like your headphones and put it into like the vinyl player and like just plug it in and just like listen to a Neil Young record and just like that was what he did for like the afternoon.
right.
Right.
It's like
it's different.
yeah.
So different.
We
I
got
feel
one,
like
we got one over there.
Do you?
So yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
Julie, it's like a newer one. But it has Bluetooth in it too as well.
I like the
But-
the tiger,
Yeah, that's
fuzzy poster over there, man. It's kind of
That's it.
70s. That's very
Yeah.
70s.
It's so funny. Like we're trying. So we just moved in here last month. So we've been like adding random pieces of artwork a little bit everywhere.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's that record player. There's something about listening to it on a vinyl. Like I don't know why. It just sounds cooler. to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a warmth. There's some kind of
Yeah.
aspect of it that might be more true to what the artist wanted you to hear, coming from a record.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think about it much.
Yeah.
I feel like vinyl records are gonna be one of those things like in 10 years make like a real big comeback because it's like a nostalgia type thing. It's like becomes like cool.
It kind of has.
Yeah,
it
is.
It is starting to.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is kind of doing that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your top live performances that you've seen?
From other
Concert,
artists.
yeah, concert-wise.
Oh yeah. There's tons of them. But probably got a couple that really stick out musically that blew me away was Allison Krauss and Union Station. They're more of a bluegrass kind of country bluegrass thing. I don't know if you've ever. Allison Krauss is her name, and Union Station is the band. And I saw them at the Benedum, and it was perfection.
Wow.
It was more of a bluegrassy thing, and they all stood around one microphone, and the way they would go to the mic and play, and then the next guy would come up, and the mix of everything, and you could hear every pick scratch and every saw of the bow on the fiddle. It was just mind blowing. It was the perfection. You would think like that type of perfection may get boring, but it didn't. It was mesmerizing. There's a guitar player who has passed away now, but his name was Michael Hedges, an acoustic guitar player who just a one-man show, who came out with like 10 guitars behind him, all in different tunings, and just would pick and just came out and was just completely, mesmerizing.
Yeah. That is a cool process too, to come up to the mic, play your song, and everybody in the back's playing still, right? And like that's how okay.
With that one that's the way it is. With some like bluegrassy kind of things.
Yeah.
But then I remember when I was younger, I was an old school metal guy, you know what I mean? Like Iron Maiden, I was a big Iron Maiden fan, and a couple of their concerts were really a spectacle kind of thing, I see in Guns N' Roses in Three River Stadium when it was called Three River Stadium, with Metallica opening for Guns N' Roses, that was I'll go back to my very first concert. I was 5 years old. It was Neil Diamond.
Nice. Sweet Caroline.
Which is not my favorite song of his, but
he has a lot.
He has got tons. It's
just
ridiculous.
catalog insane.
It's ridiculous. But that was my very first concert. But and when I was 5 years old, I already knew every Neil Diamond song. I would sit with my tennis racket and air guitar and pretend I was putting on my own concerts. I'd be downstairs with the Neil Diamond 8-track.
That's awesome.
And my dad would take the family to go see Neil Diamond.
Get out.
And we did that. So that was my first concert. But but back then, Neil was, excuse me, I need to get some water.
Yeah.
He was long-haired, silk shirt. It was like a rock band, It was like more of a rocking thing. It wasn't, like this Vegas thing at all, It kind of turned into that as as he got older. It kind of got Vegas-y. But back then, it was a sweaty rock show, and I remember it was clear as day. And when I saw that concert, I was like, I knew then. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to do what he's doing.
Yeah. It's a good
and it was Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, so that's just a few of them. I could go on and on and on, if I really started thinking about it, but many, many shows completely blew me,
Right.
Meant a lot,
Yeah.
Rush was my first rock band it was my first rock band. I always gravitated to kind of music that was more where it really took ability to play, I mean, I grew up when I was in high school, it was in the late 80s, when hair metal was the big thing, and I didn't really care for it. I never related to...
You withstood the era.
Yeah, and not because I thought I was like, I'm going to be rebellious and do it. I just never relate to it. And,
didn't get into it.
I could never... I thought to myself, I can play better than these people.
Yeah.
and I'm 16,
Uh-huh.
I was like, it didn't interest me,
Yeah.
The party, type of hair.
Right.
Let's talk about partying and, girls and
copious amounts of drugs.
Yeah, right. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
I always liked a little more stuff that took ability.
Yeah. Do you think that some of the music, I think that like, I was listening to a John Mayer interview the other day.
He's fantastic. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a Mayer fan girl too. I always tell Julia that. Like, I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, he gets. I mean, people.
He gets like wrong hate. I feel like he gets hated.
As good as anyone gets hate, it's like as many people like as people love to hate too. You know what I mean? So he gets a lot of hate, but he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic musician. I get it if you don't like his voice, whatever. But he's a fantastic songwriter and an unbelievable guitar player.
Oh my gosh, like next level. But he was talking about how he enjoyed like growing. He grew up on, I think it was the Police, and then a couple other bands too. And he used the reference of their music had more music per square inch than music does now. And I was like, that's a really good way to think about it. And I never really thought about it that way, but I feel like it's so
right.
true.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's
yeah. It's
love
like,
the Police. Love that band. Yeah.
Do you think there's people making music today? I mean, I listen to like some of your guys' soundtracks and like songs, and you hear that, I don't think you necessarily hear it as much in newer songs today.
Well, maybe not. Probably not overall. But yeah. I don't want to be. I'm not one of those old guys that back in my day things were better, and these kids don't know what they're listening to, and this music is so terrible.
If you're up for it, we'd love to hear some songs. We can take a second here and get set up. But
I'll play along, I guess, to some of our songs, hopefully, and maybe give you a little live taste of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it. Previously aired on Good Morning Nashville, Fast Train by Six Gun Sally, and we got Jeff Yeckle here to rip on guitar. Let's give it a go.
The
a band or a song that you haven't covered yet that you really want to?
Yes, there are only because of the type of band that I'm in. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there could be a Beatles song or something that I've loved that I'd always want to do, but it's not going to work for the band that we're in. You know, so you just have to. Those situations.
That's true. Yeah.
Those situations have occurred all my life with all the different bands that I've been in. You know, there's always a song or a band that I'd love to do this. I'd love to do this. Or you might love it, but it's not. No one's heard it. No one in the audience is going to know what the heck you're doing, and so we kind of have a rule, our band, that if we're when we do a cover, it's got to be something that is instantly recognizable to people. To most people in our kind of age range that come to see our band. What's the point of doing a cover if it's like some obscure thing, that people aren't going to know anyway, right? Mm-hmm. That's just the way that we kind of think about it. You know what I mean? If we're going to do covers, let's get them on the dance floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's make it something really super recognizable. So then when we play all of our originals, it kind of balances that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But what's really great about it's somewhat on topic, I guess. When we go to do these opening shows, we'll only get like 45 minutes tops. You know what I mean? It's anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes is your opening set, mm-hmm. And we'll only do like 2 cover songs and then like 8 of our originals. Mm-hmm. So we really do. It's really original heavy because we're there to sell us. Because we are, we have 2 records now. This was, the one that just came out, and we had one a couple years ago, So we're trying to build our thing, you know what I mean? So we don't want to go and,
cover everything.
Play everybody, if we're getting these opportunities, we're not going to go play a bunch of Lynyrd Skynyrd and Allman Brothers songs for people. We're going to play our Six Gun Sally songs for people, you know. And it's amazing how well we've been going. It's surprised me how well we've really been going over. Yeah. It's amazing. Not every time, but almost every time we'll get a standing ovation at the end of our set.
Awesome.
That's unreal.
And I always we walk off stage thinking we can't believe that just happened because we're there to warm the people up. We're there to not stink, to be somewhat enjoyable to a crowd to get them ready for the headliner that's coming. Mm-hmm. That they've really come to see. You know what I mean?
And now you guys just put pressure on the headliner.
Yeah, and if we can do that, if we can come anywhere close to that, then we have done our jobs, Right. And so we've been so well received.
Yeah. I feel like it's all about how you space out the covers too, right?
It is. You got to put them in the right place. Yeah.
But how does that look? Do you gauge whenever you're making the set list of what you guys want to play based off of like maybe somebody playing before you guys, or is it all a feel thing, or do you have a certain thing that you guys go in with?
We'll go in. No, we rarely make a change once we're there and we have the set list. It's not like we have like towards the end of the set we might switch something if the mood has struck us or we know the night's going a certain way. We might need to switch something. But 9 times out of 10 we're going to stick to what we do, and you basically go on and you play 1 or 2 of your songs. Mm-hmm. Maybe 3 of your own, material. Then you have to kind of hit them with something that a classic. We do "Ramblin' Man" by the Allman Brothers. And as soon as we go into that song, everyone knows it, and everyone's. So after 15 minutes of your material that you've given them, and you've done a good job, and they're like, okay, this band isn't going to be terrible to watch. Then you hit them with a song that they know really well, and so it seems to work that way.
Yeah. The 2 covers you have on the soundtrack too, that are the record that you guys just came out with, Ophelia, and also
there's
blanking on
there's more than that. I think there's more than 2 even.
I'm blanking on.
That's
I listened to Ophelia though, and I'm phenomenal, man. Like
the band.
Yes.
That was done by the band. The band was the name of
right.
Their one.
Yeah.
Big we adore we adore them. So we try to. It's like, look, when you have that luxury of either sticking close to kind of just putting a slight twist to it or doing a real big twist to a song. When you do a cover, right? You can totally change it or stick to the the original version, and we do something in the middle of that. You know,
I was
what I mean?
gonna say,
we never go too crazy away,
Right.
You know, from what the original was. You know, but yeah, there's. I don't mind having some cover songs on a record like that. You know, a lot of bands do. A lot of bands used to. You know, always the Beatles did it. You know,
Right. New artists are doing it now. Luke Combs, Fast Car. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly. And if that's a way to get, if that gets you any more noticed at all, or gets someone to listen to what your other songs, and great.
yeah,
You know, it's all about obviously, excuse me, picking the covers that somewhat fit with you. You know, within what you do anyway, right? So it's all good.
Speaking of covers, touch on a little bit of the David Bowie tribute band
Yeah.
and like because I think that's a pretty decent jump from playing guitar David Bowie style to now playing guitar Six Gun Sally style.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
Let's go back. I'm drying up here.
Yeah.
Can you maybe re-ask that, or go into that again if you want to recut us.
Absolutely.
Cut that back in, right?
For sure. You ever try these?
What is it?
Julie got these goodies.
Oh, they're
now,
caffeinated.
Like Dr. Cherry Vanilla Sparkling Waters.
No, I haven't. That looks good though.
But how was it jumping from playing in the David Bowie tribute band to now playing in Six Gun Sally?
Yeah.
And speak on how you had the opportunity to play in the David Bowie band.
Yeah, well, that was the first experience where I was going out of town. I wasn't local anymore. You know, we were getting in a van with a trailer on the back, and all piling in and going out of state to play theaters in front of bigger crowds and stuff, and getting paid. You know, everything was getting better there. So the Bowie band was my first real experience with that. But the band came about. There was a local singer by the name of Chris Thorett, and who was is just really known in Pittsburgh for being able to sing just like David Bowie,
Right.
and really being able to sound like David Bowie.
Right.
He really did a great job, and so this was another stepping stone in my career. There was a guy. His name is Rich Engler. He's part of DeCesar Engler. I don't know if you guys are too young to know. They're the biggest concert promoter in Pittsburgh, and they were for decades. Every big concert that came into town was through DeCesar Engler. So if you were in Pittsburgh, you wanted to be working with, if you could know those guys or be working with those guys, they were just legendary. Every single concert stub that I went to, every concert I went to, the ticket stub said DeCesar Engler on it.
Really?
Every single one.
Wow.
And Rich knew of Chris because Chris could sing David Bowie that great.
Mm-hmm.
And he reached out to Chris, who reached out to me because I was in a band with Chris eons ago. Mm-hmm. And he reached out to me and said, Rich Engler just called me and said, look, I can help you. You make a great David Bowie. Can you put, these tribute bands are all the rage now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they really are, they still are. He's like, can you help me put a band together? And I said, yeah, I think I could do that. So I put a band together really quickly.
Yeah.
And we got to rehearsing, and Rich started helping us, and he hooked us up with a booking agent. We went in and did a demo and got pictures and all that stuff you need to do to get your promo stuff together, and off we went.
That's awesome.
So, but in regards to, I've always, like David Bowie, felt I was a chameleon of sorts myself, a little bit, not quite like David Bowie, but I love playing different styles of music, Mm-hmm. I love finger picking a John Denver song, or playing a heavy metal song, or playing a Southern rock song, or a U2 song, or whatever it may be. I've always been able to kind of make myself sound that way and study it and know how to set up my
mm-hmm.
My equipment to kind of get that tone. And I've always loved, it's part of the fun for me to other than just kind of like, I do this and that's all I do, you know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be that kind of jack of all trades kind of thing.
Yeah, especially when you appreciate all the different types of music.
And even being in the Bowie band, you had to be that way because David Bowie's music had so many different stylistic changes, twists and turns. You know, early on he was glam rock. It was like more straight ahead rock, and then it went into experimental phase, and then it went into pop. His 80 Let's Dance pop phase, and so all that requires different styles of playing and different guitar tones and different guitars that I would have to use and effects and the way I set them up and all that stuff. But I love it. I love doing that. So it's just part of why I like playing guitar so much. I like the variety. And so going to and I loved it. So when I knew Six Gun Sally was a Southern thing, that was A-okay. It was fine by me because I loved Lynyrd Skynyrd growing up, and I was like, okay, I have a Les Paul and a Marshall, and I know how to set it up to do that. I'll go back and listen to some of those records and start learning, revisiting that and getting some of those licks together, and so it's not a big deal for me.
Does the equipment in playing those different style of music really make a difference?
It does.
The Les Paul and like the tone, and I hear like the videos of like different guitars being played.
It does. I don't want to say, it makes a difference. It does.
Right.
It really does. I think, to try to get to the authenticity of it, of what was put on those records in the 70s, those tones, I think you can do it. I mean, you can get close with, you don't have to use the exact stuff, of course you don't, but I like to try to, it's part of the fun.
Yeah, just getting it close as possible.
Yeah, it's part of the fun.
It.
I mean, it's really great with our band because the other guitar player, we have, there's another guitar player in the band, Alan Granis. Hi, Alan. He is Southern rock. He is living and breathing Southern rock, and he is one of those guys who is a little more like that's what he does. I don't know if he wouldn't want to play in a David Bowie band. he's not that guy, right?
Yeah.
But that's totally fine, right? He's so authentic to that style of music. So it really helps it's what makes our band have some authenticity with doing that,
Yeah.
But it allows me to I don't play, I can play that stuff, but he plays it better than me. He plays it more authentically, I think, because he's been studying it for so many years. And again, I jump all over the place.
You can kind of weave in and out.
Yeah. So for a live thing, I thought to myself, well, this will be hopefully more interesting to the listener because, why do you want two guys up there that sound the same?
Right.
Let him do that. I let him be that guy. And then I'm free to do whatever the mood hits me. I can attack it however I want to. And it changes night to night, because I always know he's going to play it the way he plays it, which gives me kind of freedom. But it's got, it's part of just being a musician, a schooled musician or, we have a keyboard player who is excellent, Danny. Hi, Danny. And he plays, a lot, he can fill in gaps. And so I have to find my space. You don't want to be up there. Everyone stepping on each other, and every time there's a break in the vocal line, someone's jumping in to play something. And if you're all jumping in at the same time, it doesn't sound right. Yeah. So that's part of practicing. It's part of being in a band. But okay, well, you take the fills in the first verse, and then if there's areas in the second verse, I'll come in and fill in stuff. So. There's all that back and forth. It's hard to get 7 people in a room that are all competent and that all want to play. You all want to be heard, but you can't do it all at once.
Right.
The best bands, like the band, had big bands, but they knew exactly how to.
They knew the roles.
They know the roles, man. That's when you become professional. That's when you sound professional and you just rise above. You sound better. You don't sound like a local band anymore.
Yeah.
And that takes a long time, I think, to perfect.
Yeah.
It's a constant working on that to try to get that type of to where everyone's being noticed, but not, for all the right reasons, just when everyone gets their time to kind of come in and do their thing. And so to do that consistently is what makes you sound like you're professional.
Right. Do you have a thought whenever you go into a solo of what you want to do, or do you let it come to you?
That's part of the fun for me because on a lot of the original stuff that we do, you know, like our music, I've written the solos. You know, I've come up with these solos. So most of the time most of the time I will play what's on the thing. Because I'm proud of it, you know, and I think it fits the song, and that's what I want to do. But but on the cover songs, I don't think, man. I'm like,
That's when you get funky.
that's when I get fun. I get experimental,
Yeah.
and I know the solo's coming, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start here this time on the neck as opposed to down there. You know, I'll just go for it.
That's awesome.
When it comes, you know what I mean? And I love that freedom, you know, but I have to do that more on the cover songs, not so much the originals.
Yeah, that's fair.
I stick to the game a little more.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.